Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we don't just scratch the surface of information. We take the densest sources, articles, and scientific breakdowns and distill them into the pure, potent insights you need for real life. I'm Dan.
And I'm Michelle. It's so great to have you with us. Think of us as your personal navigators through, well, some of the most compelling research and, for today, some surprisingly brutal wisdom.
Yeah, brutal is a good word for it.
We're always looking for that critical, actionable knowledge, those aha moments that can genuinely change how you approach performance and your own well-being.
We've been calling this our Radio BFit Deep Dive because we are squarely focused on wellness, peak performance, and I guess what it truly takes to extract consistent greatness from yourself.
Which is something we're all aiming for, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Whether it's hitting a physical goal, crushing a professional deadline, or, finally launching that side project you've been thinking about for years.
And let's be honest, we all know that feeling, that universal feeling. You have this huge, magnificent, challenging goal, but you're just stuck, sitting on the couch, waiting for that glorious, almost cinematic spark of motivation to arrive and, propel you forward.
And it rarely shows up. Or if it does, it's gone in 5 minutes.
It's fleeting.
It's the ultimate struggle, and it's completely understandable. I mean, our culture really feeds us this narrative that the path to success should feel good.
Right. We're taught to seek passion, find your joy, get into a state of flow.
We look for life hacks and shortcuts to kind of bypass all the difficult, unpleasant work.
But today, we are going to flip that entire premise completely upside down.
We really are.
We have source material analyzing one of the most compelling and, I have to say, intense conversations in recent memory. It's the convergence of David Goggins' radical philosophy with Andrew Huberman's cutting-edge neurological science.
Specifically from their big discussion on the Huberman Lab podcast.
Exactly.
And that intersection is it's gold. Because you have Goggins, who presents a philosophy built on just brutal, raw experience. It's like an anti-self-help guide. And then you have Huberman providing the biological framework to explain why that extreme, completely counterintuitive approach actually works.
Not just anecdotally, but at the cellular level.
Yeah.
Right inside your brain.
Yeah.
So our mission today is crystal clear. We are going to unpack why the traditional comfort-seeking pursuit of motivation and passion is actually considered a dangerous trap by these two.
And crucially, we'll give you the scientific and philosophical blueprint for forging what you could call genuinely unshakable inner strength.
We're moving past just the cool stories and anecdotes here.
Right. This is about the validated frameworks. It's about understanding the methodology so deeply that you can actually apply it, even if you never plan to run an ultramarathon or become a Navy SEAL.
It's that aha moment where the philosophy of suffering and the biology of growth just align perfectly.
And it's so important, especially when you're trying to implement these tougher strategies, that you have access to reliable foundational advice.
Absolutely. If you're looking for clear, practical fitness, nutrition, and wellness articles that are built on sound, non-extreme advice to support this kind of journey, BFit.ai is a free, essential resource you should absolutely be tapping into.
So the foundational idea here, the premise that Goggins and Huberman both agree on, is the core conflict we're diving into today. That true strength is not found in comfort. It's not in ease or seeking pleasure. It is found by deliberately, and this is the key word, deliberately embracing the friction, the difficulty, and the pain that our modern optimized lives try so hard to remove.
Okay, let's get into that. Let's unpack it, because that core idea immediately challenges the entire self-improvement industry.
It really does.
An industry that, for the most part, centers around feeling good. So we're calling this lesson 1, friction, not motivation, is your fuel.
And Goggins' foundational belief, based on the source material, is that this modern pursuit of passion and motivation is fundamentally dangerous. It's a trap.
But why? Why a trap?
Because it sets this completely unrealistic expectation that the road to growth should feel intrinsically good or exciting or easy. And if it doesn't,
then we assume we're on the wrong path. We must have picked the wrong goal, or we're not passionate enough.
Exactly. It's a form of self-sabotage.
It is. And Goggins, in his just raw honesty, calls the necessary path to true greatness a nightmare.
A nightmare, not a journey. A nightmare.
A nightmare. It's defined by misery, discomfort, and relentless aversion. And he says that accepting this harsh reality that the path is ugly and uncomfortable is the absolute first non-negotiable step.
It's a total rejection of that life hack culture that promises, maximum reward for minimum discomfort.
And what's so fascinating here, from Huberman's perspective, is the neurological basis for this discomfort-seeking strategy.
Right, the why behind the what.
Exactly. Our brains are hardwired for energy conservation. The default mode network, the one that kicks in when you're relaxing, is constantly scanning your environment for the path of least resistance.
That's an evolutionary thing, right? It's what kept our ancestors alive when finding calories was the biggest challenge of the day.
It was an imperative. So when Goggins, or anyone, attempts a monumental, difficult task, their brain starts firing off these alarm bells. Danger. Excessive caloric expenditure.
It's literally signaling you to stop, to seek comfort.
And we are so culturally conditioned to obey those alarms immediately, whether it's through, I don't know, a supplement, a better couch, a better app.
Anything to make it easier.
The Goggins approach is to deliberately override that innate comfort-seeking mindset. He sees comfort as a signal that you are failing to stimulate the brain regions that actually matter most for willpower.
He also gets really specific about the words we use, the language. The source material relays his blunt dismissal of words like passion and motivation.
Yeah.
Why are they, in his words, bullshit words to him?
Because in his view, they're just flimsy excuses. They are the language of conditional effort.
Conditional effort, I like that.
Think about it. If I say, I can't work out today because I don't feel motivated, I have just outsourced my effort to a fleeting emotion.
Right. You've made your feelings the boss.
Goggins argues the power isn't in feeling like doing the work. It's in the raw, unglamorous, sometimes physically painful act of doing it anyway, especially when every fiber of your being is resisting.
It really boils down to two words he repeats over and over. Just do.
Just do. No internal negotiation, no complex visualization, no reliance on some perfect emotional state.
And that's the system-level critique. If you wait for motivation, your feelings become the boss. You've completely ceded control.
You're allowing your emotional circuits, which are designed to prioritize immediate comfort, to dictate your long-term painful growth. It's a complete reframing of your entire operating system.
You're essentially hiring the weakest, most fickle manager you can find to run your entire company.
Precisely. The Goggins mindset requires accepting that the daily work means stepping into a metaphorical dungeon.
Okay, the dungeon.
This isn't a physical dungeon, of course. It's that internal state of misery or deep aversion that accompanies genuinely hard, unwanted effort.
That dungeon analogy is so powerful because it highlights that feeling of entrapment and reluctance. You have the key, meaning you can start the work.
You have the agency.
But turning that key will never, ever feel good. It's always accompanied by a psychological cost.
And the consequence of waiting for comfort to arrive before you enter that dungeon is severe. If you make comfort the prerequisite for action, you're sentencing yourself to what the sources call a life sentence of mediocrity.
You're prioritizing the short-term feeling of ease over the long-term reality of growth.
Because the growth only happens in the friction?
We have to translate this for, the everyday person. You, listening, might not be waiting for motivation to run a 100-mile race.
Probably not.
Maybe you're waiting for the motivation to start a difficult conversation with a colleague, or to sit down and finally do the tedious financial projections you've been dreading for a week.
In essence, if you're waiting for motivation, it's like a farmer waiting for a perfectly sunny, windless, 70-degree day with zero humidity to plow the field.
It's never going to happen.
The conditions are almost never ideal. The work gets postponed indefinitely, and the harvest never comes. True strength isn't built when the conditions are perfect. It's forged when they're absolutely terrible.
When every cell in your body is just screaming for you to quit.
That moment, that friction, that's the fuel.
Okay, so if friction is the fuel, what's the engine driving it? This leads us directly to the concept of the motivational energy source,
which we call Lesson 2, the engine of escape. It's all spick, no carrot.
And Huberman frames this so brilliantly using the classic psychological model, the carrot and the stick. Are you primarily driven by seeking a reward, the carrot, or by escaping a punishment, the stick?
And modern self-help, almost exclusively focuses on the carrot. Visualize the trophy, manifest joy, focus on the positive outcome. Goggins provides the definitive confirmation that his entire immense, relentless drive is almost entirely fueled by the stick.
He is not relentlessly running towards some speed of happiness or peace or a comfortable retirement.
No, he is relentlessly running away from who he used to be.
And that is an incredibly powerful, enduring, and frankly, psychologically taxing fuel source.
It is. His punishment isn't external. It's the internal haunting by his former self. He describes this shadow of the insecure, weak, 300-pound person he despised. That ghost is his primary, relentless engine.
So for you listening, this raises a really complex question, and I think we need to address it head on.
Okay.
For most people, a life fueled entirely by escaping trauma or insecurity sounds
Well,
unsustainable and emotionally exhausting.
it does.
So how does Huberman's neuroscience offer a pathway that can leverage this stick without leading to total emotional depletion or burnout?
That's a crucial point because Goggins' path is definitely extreme, but Huberman explains why the stick is a superior driver for sustained effort. Dopamine, the neurotransmitter we always associate with motivation, is highly active when we chase a carrot. But the thing about dopamine is that it's sensitive to novelty.
It wears off.
It wears off. Once you achieve the goal or the novelty fades, the dopamine tapers, you need a new, shinier carrot to chase.
The constant hedonic treadmill.
Exactly. The stick, however, taps into deeper, evolutionarily fundamental survival circuits. Running away from a threat, in this case, the threat of reverting to a despised former self-engages systems like the stress-responsive circuits.
Involving norepinephrine and things like that.
Right, which drives sustained vigilance and effort, not just a fleeting sense of reward. It's an intensity that a shiny new goal just can't replicate.
So the punishment, the stick, provides this enduring and brutally potent fuel source because it's a life-or-death battle in his mind.
It is. It's a lifelong state of perpetual vigilance, a deliberate rejection of the idea that he can ever truly relax or achieve peace.
For him, accepting comfort is synonymous with letting that ghost catch up to him.
And this is where the lesson about the non-permanent transformation becomes so critical.
Right. He emphasizes this over and over. The transformation is never done. If he stops running from that ghost, even for a day, the old version starts to reclaim him.
There's that famous line he says, and it's just critical for our understanding here.
No matter how much you improve, no matter how much you change who you are, it's not permanent.
You don't just wake up and say, oh my God, man, you're David Goggins. Because once it turns off, I go right back to the David Goggins that is.
Wow. That one statement just fundamentally reframes the whole nature of goals. We often treat goals like destinations.
Right. You run the race, you get the promotion, you finish the project, and then you rest. You're done.
But for Goggins, the goal is the daily battle itself. Life goals stop being about the pursuit of pleasure and become a non-negotiable daily campaign against internal weakness.
So the ultimate prize isn't happiness. It's not a celebration. The ultimate prize is simply surviving another day without succumbing to the person you fought so hard to escape.
It's the daily maintenance of the new self.
And this highlights why stick-based motivation is so potent. The pressure is constant. A reward-based system allows for rest once the reward is achieved. A stick-based system demands perpetual motion because the punishment is always right behind you.
It's a higher octane, more sustainable fuel for extreme effort.
And for you, the average person, this translates not to running from physical weight necessarily, but maybe running from the weakness of character, or the tendency toward procrastination, or that impulse towards self-sabotage.
It's running from the version of yourself you know you don't want to be. That is a truly powerful hook.
It's a powerful hook. And the intensity that comes from viewing your weakness as an active, pursuing threat is far greater than the intensity generated by visualizing a new car. It makes the daily struggle non-negotiable.
Okay, so if that's the philosophy, what's the science that validates it? This is where we move into the segment that truly bridges that gap between the brutal philosophy and the hard biology.
Lesson 3, the scientific blueprint of willpower. This is where Huberman provides the stunning synthesis. Goggins discovered all of this through sheer, painful trial and error, brute force effort.
And Huberman's work comes in and maps the exact biological mechanism responsible for that growth.
We transition from anecdote to verifiable biological fact.
It's amazing to think that Goggins instinctively found the precise lever in the brain without ever needing a textbook.
It really is.
So what is it? What is this anatomical seat of willpower, this region of the brain that rewards us for doing the things we hate?
That brain region is the anterior mid-cingulate cortex, or the AMCC for short.
The AMCC.
Anatomically, it sits deep within the frontal lobes, and it is the central biological seat of sustained effort and willpower. Its primary function is the integration of cost and benefit.
So it's the brain's internal accountant.
That's a great way to put it. When you face a task, the AMCC processes how much effort is required, what the potential pain is, and whether the perceived reward or escape from punishment is worth overriding the default desire for rest.
And crucially, it processes that aversive signal, that feeling of reluctance, the pain, the I really don't want to do this feeling.
Precisely. And the research findings on the AMCC are what provide the key validation for Goggins' entire philosophy.
Okay.
Studies demonstrate that the AMCC grows larger, meaning it becomes functionally stronger and more resilient, only when an individual performs tasks they genuinely do not want to do.
Let's slow down there and really stress that distinction.
Yeah.
Because this is the single most critical, counterintuitive takeaway for anyone listening who is aiming for strength.
It is.
We are not talking about tasks that are merely difficult.
Correct. Huberman makes this crystal clear. We have to differentiate between enjoyable difficulty and hated difficulty.
So if you're a dedicated lifter and you enjoy the feeling of the burn,
Or you love the endorphin rush of an hour-long run, that is difficult work, yes, but it provides an immediate dopamine reward. Your brain likes it, and it seeks more of it.
but according to the science Huberman cites, that enjoyable difficulty does not produce the same specific neural growth in the AMCC.
It doesn't.
Why is that specific aversion necessary? What's happening there?
Because the AMCC's job is to override that deeply ingrained energy conservation signal. If the task is enjoyable, or if the dopamine payoff is high enough, the brain isn't truly fighting its default setting. It's getting paid up front.
Wow.
The AMCC needs the signal of genuine aversion, that feeling of intense resistance or misery, to register the required cost override. That cognitive friction is the specific stimulus. It's like resistance training, but for your will.
That is the perfect biological explanation for Goggins' approach to running. He says, and I'm paraphrasing a bit, "It was never about running. Why do you think I run? It's the worst thing. I hate doing it more than anything, hence the willpower."
He uses the profound hatred of the activity itself as the workout for his brain.
So the outcome, the finished race, is almost secondary to the process of overriding his own aversion.
That's the entire paradigm shift. He's deliberately seeking out the one specific activity that triggers maximum AMCC growth. If he enjoyed running, he would be training his endurance, but he wouldn't be maximally training his willpower.
So let's ground this for our listener. The implication here is staggering. Willpower is a perishable skill. It's a muscle that atrophies without that precise, specific stimulus of unwanted friction.
It is. If you optimize your life only for passion, only for enjoyable challenges, even if those challenges are incredibly demanding.
Say you're a top-tier surgeon who loves the pressure, or a writer who finds flow state in deep work.
Your AMCC is being neglected. You are strengthening other parts of your brain, your focus circuits, your motor control, but the specific center for overriding true aversion is shrinking.
Because you've created an environment that perfectly caters to your preferences.
Exactly.
I think about the people who say, I can do anything as long as it's for work. They crush 80-hour work weeks they enjoy, but they can't bring themselves to schedule a simple dentist appointment or finally repair that leaky faucet.
That's a perfect example. The professional work is enjoyable difficulty. The dentist appointment is hated difficulty.
And the AMCC knows the difference. It doesn't care that you just closed a massive deal you were passionate about.
No. It only registers that you successfully forced yourself to clean out that absolutely disgusting, dusty garage, which you hated purely for the sake of friction. The more often you expose yourself to that hated difficulty and choose to continue anyway.
The physically larger and more resilient your AMCC becomes.
Exactly.
So the challenge isn't just to find hard things to do. It's to find the hard things that you actively dread doing and then force yourself into that psychological dungeon.
Yes, and this is why Goggins' description of the path as a nightmare is so accurate. The stimulus for growth is misery. The moment you start making the task enjoyable, you lose the specific training effect for the AMCC.
This is the difference between intrinsic motivation, which is enjoying the process, and pure willpower.
Willpower requires the aversion to function as resistance.
Okay, that gives us the biological blueprint for how we need to structure our efforts. But once we actually enter that psychological dungeon, we face that inevitable internal argument.
The voice that says, stop.
How do we win that argument? This moves us to lesson 4, winning the internal war. Master your inner dialogue.
And most mental strength advice today centers on calming the mind. Mindfulness, meditation, letting thoughts pass like clouds.
Goggins' methodology, on the other hand, is a full-scale declaration of war on his own internal negative dialogue. Huberman has referred to this metaphor from psychiatrist Paul Conti about the mind's scary, dark cupboards, the places where we hide trauma, insecurity, or self-doubt.
The things that make us reluctant to start or make us want to quit.
And Goggins doesn't just want to glance at those cupboards. He demands constant vigilance. He calls for spring cleaning every fucking day.
You have to face the internal demons, the voices of quitting and comfort, before they fester and become paralyzing. You don't ignore the negative dialogue. You engage it actively, daily.
He argues that the majority of people fall into what he calls the single voice trap.
The single voice trap.
They only have one inner voice, and it's the default, evolutionary voice of comfort, fear, insecurity, and self-doubt.
It's the voice telling them they aren't good enough or they should quit because the AMCC is screaming about that excessive caloric expenditure.
And since that voice is completely unchallenged, since it just dominates the internal landscape, it always wins.
So the fundamental process required to build inner strength is the difficult, deliberate construction of a necessary second voice to combat that default.
You are building an internal sparring partner whose sole job is to win the daily arguments.
And what's the method for this? It's active daily confrontation. It's not a passive observation of the thought. It's an argument, a fact check, every single time the default voice speaks up.
The goal is to ensure the second, stronger voice always wins the daily argument. Goggins is so clear on this. He says, the winning voice is the second voice. They have one voice, and that's just, I'm a piece of shit, and that's all they hear.
So the goal is to build that second voice so loud, so dominant, and so factually sound that the default voice is just drowned out.
This is a huge distinction from traditional cognitive behavioral therapy or mindfulness.
Yeah.
You are moving beyond being a passive observer of your thoughts, just watching them go by.
You have to become the practitioner of your own mind. You are the internal lawyer building a case for continued effort.
And this is where the philosophy and the science of the AMCC just merge beautifully.
They do.
How is that stronger voice built? Goggins asserts it's not built on empty positive affirmations like, reciting, I am strong, I am powerful.
That's just wishful thinking.
It's wishful thinking. The stronger voice is built on truth and the evidence of past victories.
Okay, the evidence.
So when the default weak voice says you can't finish this report, you're way too tired, the second voice doesn't rely on hope. It shouts down the weak voice with concrete, verifiable evidence.
It says, hold on. Yesterday, we forced ourselves to do that terrible, unwanted task, the thing that made our AMCC grow. We succeeded then. We have done harder things than this when we felt worse. The evidence of our actions proves you are wrong.
The acts of friction that grew your AMCC entering that psychological dungeon over and over are literally the evidence that allows the stronger voice to shout the weaker voice down day after day.
It transforms the internal conflict from a philosophical disagreement into a factual court case. Your actions, the unseen work, become the only admissible testimony.
I love that. The stronger voice wins not because it's inherently more positive, but because it is backed by empirical data, the lived experience of repeatedly overcoming pain and aversion.
And if you don't collect the evidence of past victories by seeking friction, your second voice has no case.
And the default voice always wins by default.
The triz. It's a perfect way to put it. And this focus on self-reliance through internal evidence moves us perfectly into Lesson 5. Forge unbreakable confidence in the dark.
This is about ensuring that the strength you build is completely independent of the external world.
The strength gained from winning those constant, invisible internal battles is what Goggins calls the unseen work.
This is the confidence that's forged in solitude, when absolutely no one is watching, when there is zero external validation, no likes, no comments, no high fives.
This solitude builds an internal, unassailable resume of suffering and accomplishment. It is a confidence that cannot be taken away by a market downturn or social media shaming or critical feedback.
It's entirely and privately owned. It's what allows Goggins to maintain his discipline even in total isolation.
To illustrate this internal reserve of power, Huberman introduces the really powerful metaphor of the medicine cabinet.
The medicine cabinet.
It's an internal supply of power, of resilience, of psychological fortitude that you must deliberately fill yourself.
And how is it filled?
It's filled, drop by drop, with every trial, every moment of pain, and every instance of resistance you overcome alone. The solitary run in the dark, the difficult truth you force yourself to face. the extra hour of studying when everyone else is sleeping.
These are the ingredients you use to stock that cabinet.
And the utility of that medicine cabinet becomes crystal clear when times get truly tough. When life throws a catastrophic challenge at you, a genuine crisis, an illness, a professional disaster.
You don't look externally for a pep talk or a supplement or a motivation. You simply reach into this self-made supply.
But if you haven't been doing the unseen work, if you've outsourced your accountability or relied on external validation, that cabinet is empty. When the crisis hits, you have no internal pharmacy to draw from.
And this leads to Goggins' extreme self-reliance and his rejection of external stimulants. He is incredibly dismissive of needing hype music, pre-workout, reliance on caffeine or accountability partners.
Yeah.
But I have to push back a little here. For the average person, isn't some external structure necessary, at least at the beginning? Is this level of absolute rejection really practical?
It's a fantastic and necessary colon because very few of us are built like David Goggins. Huberman's interpretation suggests that the goal isn't necessarily to eliminate all external support immediately, but to recognize that reliance on it fundamentally undermines the development of true, deep-rooted strength. Goggins views these external aids, the pre-workout, the hype music, as false dopamine hits.
False dopamine hits because they give you a temporary boost without exercising the AMCC. You feel good, but you haven't truly won the internal argument.
Exactly. If you need external praise or external accountability to perform the work, then your foundation is fragile because the source of your energy is external. It can be removed.
If someone else is holding you accountable, you are outsourcing the job of your second internal voice.
You are. And he argues that others don't need those crutches either, and he's incredibly direct about it. He says, that is what motivates David Goggins is the unseen work. But everybody needs that pat on the back. I don't need that shit.
And neither do they. That last phrase is the challenge. He sees reliance on external boosts as a universal weakness.
It's the ultimate self-reliance. If you need a friend to hold you accountable to start running, that just means your internal second voice isn't strong enough yet to win the argument against the comfort-seeking default.
The unseen work is the specific, targeted effort to make that second voice independent and dominant.
So we can immediately apply this. Every solitary act of pushing through pain when absolutely no one is watching.
The difficult email you send at 6 a.m., the household chore you hate but execute with discipline, the extra hour of focused work when you're tired.
That is literally stocking your internal medicine cabinet.
And we have to consider the environment we live in. We are surrounded by systems that are highly optimized for external validation and instant gratification.
Dopamine hits from social media, easy entertainment, quick fixes.
The Goggins method demands a wholesale rejection of relying on those systems in favor of deep, internal, friction-based work. It requires you to make your internal pharmacy the primary source of your power, not just a backup.
The ultimate challenge here is self-diagnosis. What do you reach for when you need a push? Is it a song, a supplement, an inspirational video?
The path Goggins and Huberman validates is to build an internal supply so vast and reliable that the external need simply withers away. You cease being reliant on the fickle environment. You become your own robust, reliable motivational system.
And this is a system designed not for temporary motivation, but for permanent, unshakable resilience.
It doesn't promise easy success.
No, it promises an engine capable of sustained performance regardless of your mood or your circumstances.
This brings us to our conclusion, pulling all of these brutal yet profoundly effective lessons together.
The synthesis is clear. Lasting strength is not a genetic gift. It's not a sudden inspiration. It is not found in seeking comfort, external approval, or waiting for motivation to strike.
It is forged in the searing heat of friction, solitude, and brutal honesty.
And we've established that this strength is a perishable skill, dependent on the constant, specific stimulus of unwanted challenges to grow that AMCC. The moment you choose optimization for comfort over the workout of friction.
That specific neurological capacity begins to shrink.
And what is the profound outcome of this relentless, often painful life path? Goggins' perspective on this is just. It's profound and deeply reassuring, despite the harshness of his method. He says that through this process, while the journey never gets easier.
Because you constantly raise the bar on the friction.
It's always found.
You're always found. That phrase speaks to a fundamental stability that goes so far beyond performance goals or medals.
It does. When your confidence is built brick by painful brick, using only the evidence of your own overcoming, you establish a profound, deep-rooted sense of self.
You know who you are, you know what you are capable of, and you know where you stand. regardless of external circumstances. You are always anchored.
You are found.
Yeah.
You no longer have to look outside yourself for identity or validation because your internal resume is too robust to be questioned.
What a powerful anchor to deploy in a world that is so full of turbulence. This has been an incredibly detailed and I think a really necessary deep dive. The knowledge itself is valuable, but remember, the application is where the transformation happens.
Absolutely. The goal is to apply this blueprint. Start small, but start with something you genuinely dread.
So, as our final provocative thought for you, the listener, something to mull over as you go about your day, connecting back to that idea of the internal war and the dark cupboards, what is the one difficult task? The one conversation you know you need to have, or the one dark cupboard in your own mind that you've been actively avoiding and optimizing your life to circumvent?
What would happen, scientifically and philosophically, if you decided to open that specific cupboard and face that specific friction today, purely for the sake of the workout, for your will?
Don't wait for motivation. Don't wait for the sunshine.
Just do.
That is the only prescription for true inner strength. Thank you for diving deep with us today. Remember to check out BeFit.ai for clear, practical fitness and wellness articles to support your journey of continuous self-improvement and resilience building.
Keep applying that knowledge and building that internal medicine cabinet, and we'll see you next time on The Deep Dive.
Until then, stay strong.